Thanks, please. Woo!
Whoops. All right. This is my persuasive speech on capital punishment. How many of you think that it is wrong to kill another person? All hands should be up. Well, last year the government killed 52 people because of capital punishment. Capital punishment is immoral and wrong and a bad way to punish criminals, and today I hope to show you why. First, we'll discuss the history of capital punishment. Many states and countries for decades have had the capital punishment used in their judicial systems. It was first brought over to the U.S. by the British colonies in Virginia in 1607, and it has been in Western Europe since before Christ. Unfortunately, it caught on quickly because in 1608, an American captain was killed by firing squad for being a spy, according to the death penalty info service. Since then, many states have added capital punishment to court systems, and today, 36 out of the 50 states, as well as the U.S. government and U.S. military, use capital punishment. So, I searched the main reasons of capital punishment being in our court system, and the three that I found to be most important were to deter others from committing crimes, to lower the costs, and to bring justice. But does it fulfill its purpose? According to Robert M. Boehm, in his book Death Penalty Today, he asked 43 experts if he thought that the death penalty deterred crime, and 79% of them said no. Many were insistent in their responses in the interview, and one said that the research strongly suggests that capital punishment has little deterrence value, and most murderers are not rational people who think out their actions. Moreover, many murderers give little care about living or dying. In fact, the research suggests that the death penalty may actually increase violent crime. All other interviews had very similar answers and very similar research to back up the statement. So now our first reason for capital punishment has been refuted. The second reason for capital punishment is to decrease the cost. The government thinks that someone on death row will spend less time in jail, which will cost less than someone living in prison without parole. Which, yes, is true if they're taken out of the system in a timely manner. However, taxpayers' money doesn't only go towards housing inmates. The Constitution requires a long and complex judicial process for capital cases, according to the book America's Experience with Capital Punishment, which raises the cost greatly. In Florida, it costs $51 million a year more than holding someone in life in prison without parole. In North Carolina, 43 people have been put to death by capital punishment in 34 years, and it costs $2.16 million per execution. Lastly, in California, taxpayers paid $114 million beyond the cost of imprisoning convicts life without parole, and it has cost $250 million per execution, which is by far the most spent on executions. These are just three examples of how cost increases with the death penalty according to the data from the capital punishment and the judicial process. Currently, according to the death penalty info, there are 30,261 inmates on death row, and to think of the millions of taxpayer dollars that are going towards killing all of them instead of towards a better use. This chart shows the death row inmates by state, and as you can see, California is on the top with 1/5 of all inmates on death row. And as we said earlier, they spend the most money at around $250 million per execution. And also the U.S. government and U.S. military are added with the other 36 states. Since there are so many processes, the cost is increased by far. And every capital punishment case is appealed at least 2 times, which adds more money, and each appeal takes 15 to 20 years, which adds 15 to 20 years that an inmate is on death row, adding more money towards capital punishment. This refutes that capital punishment is not less than housing a person on life without parole. So now we have refuted 2 of the 3. Lastly, we discussed justice. Is capital punishment really giving justice? There's a movie called Dead Man Walking where Susan Sarandon is talking to her daughter about what capital punishment is. And she says, well, Bill killed Steve, so the government killed Bill for killing Steve. And the daughter, rightfully so, asks, who kills the government? And I ask myself this question all the time, because we're taught from when we're really young and from everyone we know that murder is just not acceptable. And that being a hypocrite is not accepted either. And this is exactly what the government's doing. They're saying that, well, you killed someone, so we're going to kill you. But if for every single crime, no matter what it is, we use the eye for an eye theory, where would we be? So now, our last reason has been refuted. One last thing I want to comment on is that how many of these people are innocent? Since 1973, 130 people have been taken off death row due to wrongful convictions. And there are no current numbers of people who have already been killed and lost their life because of capital punishment and were innocent, but it's probably because the courts don't want to admit they were wrong. But there are still sources saying that most definitely many people have been innocent, have been killed. Years later, they have been refuted. So as discussed, the death penalty is clearly immoral and barbaric and wrong. It's not lower costing than having someone in life in prison. There's no justice because the government is just being hypocritical. And experts and research has confirmed that it does not deter crime. In fact, it does the opposite. And I don't and have never agreed with capital punishment. Thanks.